Hey, this is Terry Bean coming at you with another exciting episode of Business Growth Time. Super looking forward to our guest, Michael Melfi, lawyer, author, coach, entrepreneur, but we'll talk more about him in a minute. With me, as always, the lovely and talented, my old high school pal, Janet E. Johnson, where today the E is going to have to stand for engagement, because I think that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about.
Cool. Engagement. You mean somebody's not getting married or anything?
Right, there's no marriage happening. No love connection today. And we'll be back in 2 and 2. Remember Chuck Woolery? We just got done talking about with Michael about the 80s, right? We'll be back in 2 and 2. Man, what a cocaine festival that show had to have been. So, how you doing? You good?
Very good. Very good. I'm excited for today. Yes, I'm excited to talk to Michael. We had a little chat for a couple of minutes before, and I took a look at his site, and so I'm excited to learn from him.
Well, I'm excited to introduce him. I've known Michael for a few years. We're actually connected to probably our favorite guy on the planet, both of ours, a gentleman named Rod Hairston, who I've referenced on this show before. Rod's a heck of a teacher and an instructor and just a really good dude. And Michael's a partner with him in one of Michael's businesses called Treps. But as I mentioned, he's an attorney. He specializes in intellectual property and getting businesses started up. So we're going to talk a little bit about that startup phase, and maybe he might have a checklist like you do, Janet, that businesses need to go over. He's an author. He's written 4 books: The Simple Secrets of Social Media, The Simple Secrets of Crowdfunding, The Simple Secrets of Intellectual Property, and The Simple Secrets of Entrepreneurship. I'm detecting a trend here. And then he's got a really cool organization that's an online community called Treps. And Trep is the cool word, the hipster word for entrepreneur. So it's a place where entrepreneurs can go and get better connected and learn the things they need to grow. So without further ado, Mr. Michael Melfi, Esquire. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Terry, and thank you, Janet. So nice to meet you, Janet, and great to be on the show.
Yes, I'm excited.
We are happy you are here, man. We are happy you are here. So let's dive into it. You have Treps, and It was an idea to kind of empower entrepreneurs. And I get the emails every single day, right? There's a little message, a little motivation, and an action step every single day. And I love it. It's empowering and it helps us move forward. So how'd you start it? Why'd you start it? And what do you hope to get from it? And what do you hope your audience gets from it?
Absolutely. So why did we start it? Well, we started it out of actually a need for entrepreneurs to receive funding. The number one concern that entrepreneurs have is around funding, whether it be startup funding, growth capital. They need that to get to whatever point they're looking to get to. And as you alluded to, I was speaking with Rod, and we really started talking about what it takes to be successful, what it takes to have the identity of an entrepreneur. And so many people go right to tactics and strategies. And while those are important, that's where people mostly go. They right away say, hey, I need to write a business plan. I'm going to create a pitch deck and go to a pitch competition. And they forget about some of the precursors of that, making sure they and their team have the right culture, they have the right mindset, behavior, and habits. Make sure they're mentally prepared to deal with this roller coaster called being an entrepreneur. And most of us don't do that. We don't get comfortable before we go on the road trip. We don't make sure we have the right music. We don't make sure we're mentally prepared to drive through the night. We have the roadmap planned out. We don't have all those things in place, and we just get in the car and go. And so it makes it so much more difficult. And when the obstacle does come up, when the challenge does come up as an entrepreneur, we're more likely to fail and or quit. So if we can prepare people for the obstacles, for the challenges, for the deception they're going to face, they're more likely to be able to move through that to create success. And so the idea around Treps was to create an online community for like-minded entrepreneurs to go to join and be able to go there and provide them the intention, programs, and training they need to be successful. And that's really what we created there was this online community. And out of this what we felt and what we heard from the community was a need. You know, Rod has a long experience of working with many millionaires and billionaires and watching their success and their story and helping some of them get to that point. I've had worked with many millionaires and had the opportunity to be mentored by a couple billionaires. And so in that process, that environment and learning, it was really about having the right mindset, you know, and really being able to understand what it takes to create success. And that's what we created out of Treps Nest. And what we want to give to the community is the knowledge, the resources, the tools to be successful. And so I always say we're kind of to the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of bricks out there, the building blocks for the foundation. I want to be the mortar that holds those together. So as someone moves from being trained how to write a pitch deck to going to the pitch competition, how do we get them mentally prepared? How do we get the identity so they can be successful? As people go through and they go through a program, some of the great programs we have in the community, in the ecosystem that teach them some of the strategy, how do we make sure that they have the mindset, the determination, the focus to see it through to success? So that's really what we created. And ultimately, what I hope that we're able to empower our members and just the entrepreneurs in general that I engage with is I want to empower them to be successful. And most people get into business out of a passion. They love what they're doing. And there's some financial component to it. They want to make some money doing it. Otherwise, it's really a hobby.
Because they can't keep doing it.
Right. So I wanted to be able to make it not a hobby and be able to have it be their business, which ultimately means most of them are going to have to be able to create value. So that's the real behind it all. I want people to be able to have the value mindset. How do you create value for your customer? How do you create value for your funders or your partners, whoever's the foundation that's making the business move forward with money? And then ultimately your team, because the team around you is important. And as you create value for those three areas, you will tend to create success. And so we've been coining this term called be investable. Are you able to be investable as an entrepreneur? Is your entity or your company, your idea investable? So making it be investable. And so how do we really create that for someone? And how do we build a roadmap for them that they can do that has really been the focus. And that's our goal, is to get people into the community, share some of our free programs, and then we have other programs they can join that really help them move down that pathway.
That's awesome. You've used the word three times, and I know Rod's really big on it, but I want to draw the audience into this concept of identity. I think that's such an important thing, and I think it probably just washes over most people's head.
Totally.
But from your perspective and your knowledge of it, can you share what that means?
Absolutely. So I always talk about the identity of being an entrepreneur. And people are like, okay, what does that mean? I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business. I'm a consultant. I'm a musician. I'm this, I'm that. I'm an entrepreneur. The identity of being an entrepreneur, it's a mindset. 90% of people believe entrepreneurship is a mindset. So when you talk about that identity, it's certain attributes or characteristics. When you look at successful entrepreneurs, to the listening audience, when you look at them, there's certain things that stand out about them. When I say Mark Cuban, or I say Steve Jobs, or I name you Richard Branson, or I name you any successful entrepreneur that we put on a pedestal in our society or on social media, there's some attribute about that person that we connect with. And we all may say a different word. We've broken them down into a few key characteristics. Some may be that they're outcome focused. Some may be that they're internally motivated. It may be that they're results driven. So those are just some of them. At the end of the day, they're willing to deal with uncertainty. They're willing to take intelligent risks. Those characteristics are what this identity is really made up of. And what's really cool is that the mind is a muscle. So like any other muscle in your body, you can train it. Janet was talking about going running, and I don't know how far she went running, but maybe the first time she went running, it may have been a step, a half a mile or a mile, and eventually it grew. And over time, she strengthened her body, strengthened those muscles to be able to run further. As an entrepreneur, the mind is the same way. So the more you take the mind to the mental gym, the stronger it will get. You'll be able to go from focusing on one thing for 5 seconds to 5 minutes to 5 hours. I'll never forget, I was on a train ride, and I sat on the train ride, and the train ride ended, and I went to get up, and a woman came over, and she's like, I've been looking at you and watching you for the last 8 hours, which was kind of weird. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you were just so focused and diligent on getting your work done. And it kind of struck me by surprise, because I'm like, I don't even know what she means. I sat down. I knew I had to get to an objective and a result, and I focused on it and got it done. Well, that's a characteristic. That's a habit that I wasn't born with, that I've built over time. That is one of the characteristics of the identity of being a successful entrepreneur. We talk about an identity. A great one would be, and I keep going back to fundraising because I get calls so often about, can you help me raise money? The answer is no. People get really startled when I say that. I can empower you to have the identity to go raise money, because at the end of the day, someone doesn't want to invest in me. They want to invest in you, the entrepreneur. And so the identity of being investable is important. it's important to understand that that's an identity. And an example I'll give you is I use the example of a lottery syndrome. So for those of you who have ever heard about this, the average lottery winner within 1 year typically ends up broke or right back where they were.
Yep.
And you're like, no way. Yes. And if you look at any of the studies on it, and you ask the doctors, the psychology behind it is that their identity at the subconscious level is not that of a multimillionaire. They've now instantly gotten more money they ever knew what was humanly possible to do. And what, subconsciously, not consciously, they don't go out. It's not like Brewster's Million, I got to spend this. They subconsciously lose it. They subconsciously give it away. They subconsciously self-sabotage it. Now keep that in mind, and I'm going to make a connection. I'm an entrepreneur now. And I've never made more than $50,000 in my life. I've never asked anyone for any money other than some money I got as a gift. And now you want me to go out and ask people to raise $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. There is such a gap from an identity standpoint there. And so even the ones that do get it, so some people figure out how to find a rope to swing across, or a tightrope to climb across, or a bridge to cross that valley to get across. What ends up happening when they get over there is that, as one statistic is, 90% of venture capitally backed businesses never harvest. There's a reason why a majority of businesses still go out of business within the first 5 years, over half of them. If you don't have the identity for success, if you don't have the identity to be investable, when you get that, what's going to happen? When they call you up on stage, what are you going to do? And so it's that preparation. Amongst preparation meets opportunity. And so, Terry, it's a great question. You're 100% right. People come all the time to things I talk about, the identity of an entrepreneur. They love hearing me speak and like, oh, that sounds really good. Let me write that down. It's really an internal dive into what it takes to create success. And that it's that internal motivation, it's that internal rewiring to be really successful. It's funny because when you meet really successful entrepreneurs, you know it as soon as you meet them. Like you meet them, and you're like, oh, wow, that person was enthusiastic. They were amazing. And I want to be drinking whatever they're drinking, right? That's how you feel. You're enamored with what they have. It's because their identity is that of success. It's no wonder that those people are able to raise any amount of money they want. It's no wonder they're able to influence people to join their team when all they have is an idea working on out of a coffee shop, for instance. It's because they have that identity and they've done the work and they were willing to do what it took to get there. And so it's that preparation. You know, they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Are people preparing for that success they're going to have? So when you're in the elevator and the chance to give the elevator speech, do you have an elevator speech that really conveys your why, right? Have you done the stuff to be ready to be able to make that happen, to seize the moment? So it's a great question, and it is absolutely the core. That the beliefs that someone has in their identity is the core of their success, especially in entrepreneurship.
Love it, love it, love it. What do you think, Janet? How's your identity?
You know what? I'm an entrepreneur. Been doing this, since, started in 98, but, did a few things in between there. Ran a daycare in my basement for 6 years, for God's sake. But that was a long time ago. But
was that partially to watch your kid?
Yeah, it was to keep my kids at home, and then I got hooked on the internet and off I went.
Nice.
But the thing is what you just said, it's that roller coaster ride. The identity is, sometimes you go, I said this to Terry like a few years ago, and my business is completely different now, but I just said, sometimes it'd be easier to just get a job. Think of how many people that are new entrepreneurs and have been in a job mentality. I'm sure you see this all the time. They struggle with, this is hard. Mm-hmm. It is a roller coaster beyond. And we're supposed to not only know how to do the business side of things, what your hobby or your passion is, but you have to know all the business stuff too. And then, it comes to accounting, and then there's there's this, that, and the other. So in the entrepreneur world, it's a crazy world. So I love that you have a support system for people to back them up, to say, hey, we're here for you.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's interesting is you're talking about that uncertainty. So with a job, you have certainty at the financial level, in a lot of other ways.
Which is just a belief at that point because the company can go out at any time, right? Talk about
Right.
fallacy.
There's no certainty at all. That's the certainty, is that there is no certainty in life.
Yeah.
And when you're comfortable with that, you can have certainty in knowing I don't know how tomorrow's going to be. And really what is really interesting is as people begin to understand that, they're able to start to make choices intellectually in their life to position them to be ready to deal with more and more uncertainty. So maybe leaving your job today to go be an entrepreneur isn't the best thing to do, but it's a gradual process.
Sure.
So you line up the stepping stones, because you're going to, when you finally make that transition, there's going to be a whole new level of uncertainty. And so it's the ability to really create in your mind that, like Terry said, that belief that you're moving into certainty. All you're doing is, it's kind of, think of it like stairs. You're simply moving to a new level. You have to move up to a new level of certainty, to a new level of certainty. I have a mentor in my life that is a billionaire. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing I ever took away from him is him and his brother started their business on credit cards in their garage, like all the great ones do, right? And it was really interesting because I got to meet his advisors that ran his company, because he didn't once it was that big. And they said to me that the person, the identity, the beliefs, everything we're talking about here, that they were from $0 to $1 million was different than they had to be from $1 million to $10 million. Because to move the next level up, the uncertainty changed. There was a lot of certainty in being a $10 million company. Can they take the next step to go to 50 or 100 million? And so they started to bring people around them who could allow that to happen. And to go from 100 million to $1 billion company, same thing again. How do you take that step into uncertainty, whether it be you or your team, to move through that scale? And that's where the idea of teamwork and why it's so important of culture. Because ultimately, someone goes from 3, 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, and they begin to expand themselves. What you're going to find is that they want to hold on to what got them there, that culture that got them there. And then there's a culture that's going to need to take place to carry them forward and lift them up to that scalability, to that next level of uncertainty. And so the ability to marry the two of those is where the cultures come in. Terry, as you know, it's where the isms come in. It's where you're able to build, how are we going to move forward and carry what our beliefs are into uncertainty? So now you have those beliefs in place, you're able to deal with uncertainty. And from that place of uncertainty, you can get creative and move through. And so that's a really important part of it in making that transition as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about building those muscles, right? If we can train some of our mind and recreate our mindset and redevelop it, or we can enhance our identity. Do you have a couple of tips that people can think about and contemplate and maybe get to work on?
It always helps if you do a few push-ups and a few sit-ups.
That's always solid.
If you're looking for a healthy mind and body, yes.
Yeah.
There is an alignment there, right? So it is important to have a healthy mind and body. And so there is some alignment there. So I say that kind of in jest, although there is truth to it.
Yeah.
You'll have more energy. You'll think more clear as you do take care of the other parts. And really, Terry, it is, I equate it to the mental gym. It's kind of like there's a conditioning program. If you wanted to go and you wanted to go through a program and work through it, you could, and it would take you through the steps to be successful. There are definitely ways. So, Rod has his 45-day challenges that he created, and there's a 6-step process to be able to go through with someone. There's definitely ways to continue to build the muscle. We have, for instance, given people different options to be able to do that, because everyone has different availability of resources, time, money, energy to make that commitment. Think of it no different than going to the gym. Some people can go to the 1995 24-hour fitness type place, and other people go to the club with all the amenities and the trainers and all that stuff. And there's not a right or wrong to either side. The end result is you can get in shape at either place. You can be investable no matter what road you take. The ability is really starting and taking the first step. So every day starting to do different things. So that's why we created the Daily Success Program. Terry, you get those emails. I don't expect someone every day, 365, to do every one of those. I can tell you that the more you do that, the more you start to build habits that will create success. So that's a very basic level to really get started. Just do one thing every day that's going to move your idea, your invention, or your business forward. At the most basic level, change your habits. That's the most basic.
Change your habits, right? Because ultimately that's what it's all about. Everybody's got these very specific tendencies, and the majority of us don't even know that we do, right? And so there's no way that those are all serving us in the highest and best use. So just taking a time to examine what those habits are sets you apart from a lot of different folks, I would think.
Absolutely. And you can literally just start with just that. I share with a lot of the people I engage with, I have something I call the focus bonus exercise. And it's a basic habit that takes less than 5 minutes every morning. And basically the idea is this: define your belief for the day, your one belief, what's going to carry you through the day. Define your top priorities for the day, and then define the task you're going to need to complete those. And that's it. It can be that simple. And that could be a basic task that just gets you in alignment every day. It could be your check-in. I don't care what your task could be. Everyone has a different one. I found that to be very successful, and that's a basic habit. So those are two basic programs you could do to be successful, to be able to. That's something that's very easy for people to be able to move through. As you begin to get past your habits, you start to move into your beliefs. So in your beliefs, what you're able to do is you're able to start focusing on really starting to transform who you are, your environment, and what's around you as you begin to really change your behaviors. That's typically when you start getting a coach, when you start joining a mastermind group, when you start getting more involved in some program that's going to require you to do some work. That's going to start to shift you at the behavioral level. And I'd say the third opportunity is at the identity level. And at the identity level, that's when you start to put yourself in the right environment. As we have talked about, Terry, there's a lot of conditioning. So we do a conditioning program where you actually go through and define your vision. You define the habits that no longer serve you. You replace those with habits that do serve you. You build focus around that. You start to create role modeling, and you finally start taking intelligent risks. And I know I went through that really quick, and we can talk more about that if you like. But that sixth step is really a conditioning way to transform an identity. And so, I'm giving you the bare bone models. Now imagine dumping entrepreneurship on top of it. Things like leadership, business knowledge, business strategy, business development, mindset, all these things, fundraising, networking. Those are all the things that we intermix into this identity conditioning to create what we talk about as that successful, that ultimate entrepreneur.
Awesome. So much information just got dumped in.
Focus is a big word I've heard you use too. And it sounds to me like, from what I know of the entrepreneurs and, I'd say majority of entrepreneurs are guilty of it, is a lot of them are creative. And so then it tends to be the attention deficit type, because I've noticed you talk about focus a ton. Mm-hmm. So build upon that a little bit. Is that something that is familiar to you? And is that kind of the background of a lot of people that you're in the entrepreneur field?
Yeah. So when you talk about focus, it's probably one of the most important things because it's easy to get distracted in so many ways.
Oh yeah.
So, once you've established where you want to go and you understand your vision, and you've started to remove or identify the habits that no longer serve you, you start to move in a different direction. What's inevitably going to happen is we're like water. We're going to go to the path of least resistance. It's always easier to go back and sit on the sofa, order a pizza, and watch TV.
And tastier.
And tastier. And probably more fun. And that being said, how do you stay focused? How do you stay internally motivated to move through that? To say, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay at the office. I'm going to get on my whiteboard and brainstorm. I'm going to do a brain dump. I'm going to, just like that workout. Oh, it's difficult. I'm going to drop the weights. I'm done with it. I'm on rep 8. I'm not going to finish 10. Your mind works the same way. And once you move through that uncomfortableness, you'll always be able to do 10. And then you can do 12. And then you can do 14. And then you can do 18. That's focus. There's the exercise of close your eyes and let your mind remain calm for 5 seconds. And some people say, oh, that's easy. Okay, do it for a minute. And then do it for 5 minutes. And then do it for 50 minutes. That's focusing. And again, at that point, you're just the ability to stay focused on something and stay on target is so important. What you focus on, you find. And so the more you can do that, the stronger the momentum, the energy you have around you will ultimately be. And I think the other side of it is that it starts to be how people relate to you. If you're always focused on something of delivering this type of result, people start to know you for that. And they start to call on you for that. And so it's been interesting. As you know, with my books over the years, I've had different subject matter expertise and different experiences in my life. And with each one, I wrote a book. I focused on different things. And so now as I sit here with entrepreneurs, it's really about getting them to focus on what it takes for them to be successful. And that can be very challenging. It's a difficult exercise.
Yeah, it is for sure. And you've gone through multiple iterations, right? In fact, it's funny to me because I think when we kicked off the show, we're going to talk a little bit about lawyering and intellectual property. And I think that's the second time it's been mentioned right there.
Yeah.
And what people need to do to start up. And that's not as important to me right now is what we were talking about with the identity, because at the core of starting up, knowing who you are, knowing what you're doing, knowing who you serve, and what your why is the whole thing before you can start up effectively anyway, are the things that you need. So I'm glad that we hit on that instead.
100%. Well, and it's interesting, just like an entrepreneur, and I teach entrepreneurs, I've made pivots. And so here I am, and I can show people strategically and tactically how to do social media. I can show them strategically and tactically how to raise money, especially with crowdfunding. At a very strategic and tactical level, I can deliver great legal services or provide them with protection of their intellectual property, which is so important. Those are all strategic and tactical. And even though I can provide that to someone, I still found many entrepreneurs failing even after they interacted with me, which I'm not interested in filing the person's patent. I'm interested in the commercialization and the monetization. That's where the real opportunity is for all of us. And so it's been interesting that although I have the roadmap, and we can talk about the roadmap to patentability and commercialization, for instance, there's so much more that goes into it beyond that. And that's really what I've been driven to. It's been a passion, as you can tell. And it's really to me, the secret sauce to fuel everything else. And so you're 100% right. I could talk to you about filing a patent or trademarks, and probably your listeners would fall asleep. Hopefully we get something educational out of it. At the end of the day, it's not about your trademark. It's not about your patent. It's not about your business plan, and it's not about your pitch deck. Those are important, very important. And everyone who services people in those areas, keep using them. They're very important. And there's more to it. There's the mindset. There's the foundation of the person. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about a human being and their ability to interact with others and interact with themselves. And when they're successful at that, they will be a great leader. They will be influential, and their entrepreneurial business will grow.
That's awesome, man. So we talked about being able to interact with others. How do people interact with you? Where can they connect with you and get deeper into the land of Michael Melfiness?
That's awesome. You can always find me on social media. My personal webpage is www.michaelsmelfi.com. And you can definitely find out and learn more about me. For those people who are on this call who are intrigued by anything we talked about there around entrepreneurship and all the things we covered, if you go to www.trepsnest.com, TREPS-nest.com, you'll go there. You can join the community absolutely free. You can sign up for the Daily Success Program that Terry alluded to, where you'll get a daily email in your inbox, absolutely free. And also all of our members are going to get the next issue of our magazine coming out. So that's a great way to get involved and get started and really engage in some more of this content that we're talking about here today.
Awesome. Janet, any closing thoughts? What do you think, kiddo?
It was great. We talked a lot about focus, mindset. I mean, it's, it all boils down back to the whole, we get in our heads so much. And I think, it's all, you're training entrepreneurs to change their mindset.
Awesome. All right. And how does Ernie connect with us, just in case they forgot or didn't know they were
Ernie? We did allude to the 80s. We gotta throw in one question.
All right, hit it.
Question. All right, what was your favorite 80s song or
band? My favorite. That wasn't on the pre-interview question.
He's quick of thought when he knows his topic, but
well, the answer is because there's so many. I don't know which ones I would actually choose. What
was the first one that came to mind? Take On Me?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I went to their concert. Yes.
I went to their concert. Was it because of the video? Did you see the video or did you hear the song?
The song.
Okay.
The song. Okay. Mine was just more they were pretty boys, but yeah.
It didn't appeal to Michael or I. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that. We like to bring our 80s back in here once in a while, and it's kind of fun. So I appreciate your time. And if Ernie, our audience, wants to find us, that's what we call our audience because it begins with an E, and we're a little silly here. We are at businessgrowthtime.com, so you can find us there. Or just head to businessgrowthtime.xyz to join our Facebook group, and that's totally free and interactive group where we teach and help, and we definitely want you to join too, Michael. And then other than that, you can find us on iTunes, and that is pretty easy, businessgrowthtime.com/iTunes, and we're on Stitcher too for those of you that are Terry's side of the world.
Terry's side. Droid for life. All right, guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you real soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, take care.